If we pull this off, it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah. What you're wearing says so much about who that person is, who that character is.
The first time I went up there, it was a tryout, and I never left. I was there for about 2 years.
And Taker looks over and goes, roll him up, Miz. What kind of heel are you?
Don't tell it. Like when Edge returned, we sat on Edge's return for 3 months.
Wow. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Irish Wrestling Podcast. I'm delighted today to be joined by Robert Adams and Patrick Bentley, better known as Main Event Gear. You may have seen their gear all over the wrestling world. All the biggest wrestlers in the world have been using their gear for years, and they're here to talk about, you know, their history in wrestling, how they got into making ring gear, and what the future holds for ring gear and themselves in the process. So, Robert, Patrick, welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. And that was a heck of an introduction for us. I think it's like you made us larger than what we are.
Well, you should be. I think everybody should know who you are. I love the background of. I love wrestling. I mean, as we all are, we're wrestling fans. But I love what goes on behind the scenes that people don't get to see on the weekly show. Like, just the amount of ring gear that you've made over the years for some of the biggest stars in the wrestling industry. And nobody would ever, they look at it and they'd say, "Oh, that ring gear looks brilliant," but they'd never actually get into it. How it's made and who made it and where does it come from. And if you ever want to become a wrestler, how do you get ring gear? What do you show up to a wrestling school with? You're not going to show up there in your tidy whities. Like you're going to have ring gear. So, first of all, before we get into the making of the ring gear process and your background itself, growing up, obviously you're both wrestling fans. Do you remember your earliest memories of starting to watch wrestling and being fans?
For me, my earliest memory, my grandfather was a huge wrestling fan.
Oh, good.
And his mother was a huge wrestling fan. And I always heard stories about when you'd pull up to her house, you would hear her screaming at the wrestlers on TV and getting mad, and she'd throw stuff at the TV. So that love passed from her to my granddad. And my granddad took me to a local wrestling show when I was younger. I was probably around 8, 9 years old, and I fell in love with it then. And I was just like, I just couldn't get enough of it. So, and that was in the late 80s, mid-late 80s. So me growing up was, of course, WWE. Mm-hmm. You had the Mega Powers exploding, and all that other stuff. And man, Macho King, Sensational Queen Sherry, and all that. I just fell in love with it. And then I got into the wrestling. So that's how we got into making gear. Wrestled on the indies. And so Patrick, he can tell his story and his love of it.
I first saw it when I was really too little to remember. Like my mom would share stories. Like we lived outside of Birmingham, Alabama at the time. And so we got Continental Wrestling, like Bullet Bob Armstrong.
Yeah.
And she said I would watch it and I would run around. And I didn't have cable TV until I got a little older. And that's when I started seeing it again. It's like when Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, they were having the Iron Man.
Yeah.
And I fell back in love with it again when I was able to watch it. And then soon, the Attitude Era started picking up, and that's when it got really, that's when it just captivated me and took over my life. Like that's all I wanted to do was wrestling after that.
And that like obviously watching wrestling. Is there training schools where you from? Are you both from Mississippi, Alabama area? Or are you both
Alabama?
Yeah,
yes.
Both from Alabama. So was there schools there at the time? Was there somewhere that you picked up the wrestling, or?
Well, at the time, they weren't a lot around, but there were shows around, but they were not very professional.
Okay. Yeah.
He trained formally, but when I got in it, I was, I guess, a yardie at the time. I didn't know any better. I was a kid that was doing it in their backyard.
Yeah.
But I wanted to take it serious, and I would try to go to these shows, and a lot of them at the time didn't. They weren't very professional. I'll say that. And then, but I hung around enough, and I got around enough guys that knew better, that were able to show me the way. And I guess I really just, when I really grasped and everything clicked with me was when at my time with NWA Wildside. and NWA Anarchy. And that's when I really started to really learn the craft of wrestling, and we were able to have extra talent bookings with WWE, and we really were able to kind of go off and learn the business and learn everything there. And that's really where we kind of came together.
Did you both work? Did you do extra work for WWE for SmackDown and shows?
Yes, there's actually a video of Deuce and Domino, their debut in 2006 or 7. It's Deuce and Domino. They did the Greasers. The Greaser. Yeah. We were the extras that got beat that night for
on their debut match.
Yeah, for their debut match.
Actually, JBL called me the dope from Hope. So, but you was talking about schools, like back in the late 90s. I don't know that there was as many as wrestling schools as they are now.
No.
So you usually had to find a veteran from the business that would want to train you. I do have a story about when I was trying to find schools. This is when actually the Warrior had his Warrior Academy.
Oh, yeah.
And so I called it. And I was like, hey, get trained by the Ultimate Warrior. And the guy answers the phone. He's like, Jim. And I told him, I was wanting to be trained for wrestling. He's like, I don't handle that. That's I'll put you on hold. So he puts me on hold. The guy picks up and he goes, Warrior. It's the same guy. So he answered his phone as Jim, which was his name. And then he picks it back up as Warrior. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so that's when he told me, he's like, I don't think that there's anybody worthy for me to train, but if you send me $100, I will send you a list of schools. I was like, all right, thank you. But I never took them
up. You came so close to being trained by the Warrior, and you ended up with Jim.
yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. How did you get into training wrestling? Did you do the same? Were you doing backyard stuff as well, or did you just come to NWA?
Me?
Yeah.
I was training at a place in Albertville, Alabama. The guy who trained me had an amateur background in wrestling, so he trained me there. And then I think I was there maybe a year, and it's just a small wrestling show. A lot of people have put it down, but the thing is, if it wasn't for the guy who owned his name's Mickey, if it wasn't for him, then providing the ring, the building for me to go there and be trained, I would have never got into it. I would have never been able to find anywhere. I didn't know of Wildside at that time, which it was there. I didn't know of any of those places. And it was kind of like, how do you find these? Where do you find these schools at? And, you just didn't have a directory back then.
Yeah.
But from there is where I actually met Patrick through wrestling. And we had a buddy, Mike Posey, who's actually a referee at AEW now.
Yeah.
I went with him to Wildside for his tryout ref match, and they picked him up. And he was like, you need to come up here. And I was watching like David Young was there. They had Rick Michaels and them out there and some others. I was like, I'm out of my league here. And the confidence, I didn't have it. And finally, I think maybe 2 years later, I went there, and I was like, I should have went earlier.
Yeah.
But I did, but I held myself back.
Because it's intimidating, because we would watch these guys, because AJ Styles came from there. Austin, Xavier Woods, he came from there.
Yes.
Yeah, Abyss.
Oh, yeah.
We would watch these guys, and they were just incredible. And, we were just starting out, and we're like, we don't belong here. But I think it was fighting through that and persevering through that, because it's scary, because you don't know what to do, but surrounding yourself with people that are better than you, that's the only way you're going to be able to grow as a talent. And it's scary, but that's what you got to do to get better. But it was an awesome experience. I think wrestling was the most fun in the beginning, because you're kind of naive to how cutthroat things can be. And you just kind of, it's just for fun, you know, because it can be nasty, but it can be also very positive too. But I think when you're young and you're getting into it, you're just doing your dream, you know, you don't think
Absolutely,
about it.
yeah. You're just there to be, you know, you want to be a wrestler. That's all you're thinking about. You just want to make it, just
Absolutely.
keep grinding and grinding.
Yeah.
So how long did you, are you, you know, are you still active? Do you still do shows, or are you still wrestling?
We done a match last year. We had a buddy that was in a very bad motorcycle accident.
Okay.
And they done a fundraiser to help him with medical bills and everything else. And at that point, I hadn't wrestled in 8 years. I think Patrick was 10 years. And his son called us. It's like, can you do this for dad? I was like, man, I'll do anything you want, but I am not. I can't wrestle right now. Plus my weight. I've gained so much weight since I've wrestled. I was like, I'm not comfortable getting out there. And he kept on. He's like, it'd be so much. And finally I said, all right, if it's me and Patrick wrestling each other, then we'll do it. So we started going to another friend of ours who owns a show and getting in the ring. And I was like, if I can get my cardio up, I knew I couldn't get my weight down in time, but I can get my cardio up. I was like, I can get the cardio up. We can do this. Man, we was in the gym, then going and training in the ring, got the cardio up. And about 2 weeks before that show, I'm pretty sure both of us got COVID. And it took everything out of all the work was gone. We went to the match, got there, and we was 1 minute into it, and my lungs was just like, you're not doing this, not tonight. And we had to stop. We finished the match, but it wasn't nowhere what we was going to do. Like this, that's not going to be my last match.
You don't want to end. You don't want to end it that way.
No, we're not going out on that. Not that I'm anything special, or either one of us, but yeah, we're not going out on that.
Did you make special ring gear for yourselves for that match?
I didn't.
So I reading up about you. I know you talked about in the past about having, you know, making your own ring gear, or you had to, you know, how expensive it was back then to actually, you know, find someone to make it for you. And ring gear, you know, when it's not good, it rips sometimes. You know, you have nothing. Like I said before, you could end up in your tidy whities in the middle of a match, and you just have to keep going. So, has that happened?
It's a good segue.
Yeah, tell your story.
Okay, yeah. So speaking of being in your tidy whities, I was booked as an extra, or we were, for a Smackdown taping, and before the show, a lot of the talent will go down and they will practice in the ring and warm up and work out. And if they have a spot or something they'd like to work out, that's what they'll do. That's how it was then. I don't know how it is now, but like this was early 2000s. And I get my my ring, like my knee pads, and I have a warm-up suit on, like some tearaway pants and a shirt. And I'm saying all this to the heat press. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Our heat press is going off ahead of time. Right? So I'm in this attire, and I go down to the ring, and Undertaker is in the ring, and he's backing up against the ropes and
warming up.
He's warming up, and he starts running the ropes, and dude, he is booking, and I think he's like, the ring may move, you know. he's running so hard, and then I'm just watching him, you know, because it's the guy that I grew up watching, and I'm right here at ringside, and he looks down at me and he goes, "You want to get in the ring, kid?" And I was like, yes, sir. And so I climb in, and he's over there in the corner, and they had some guys there that were from Deep South, I believe was around at the time, was like their developmental. I'm sorry. And so he pulls Miz, and he goes, "You guys work." So we had to work an impromptu match together, and it was probably about 6 minutes or so, and we're just calling it as we go. And I had my tearaway pants, and we're doing a spot, and my tearaway pants ripped, and And when they rip, I mean, they rip off. And the only thing I have underneath is my under trunks, which are light trunks, but they're very skimpy, dude. Like my butt's hanging out. And everyone just starts laughing, and I don't know what to do. And Taker looks over and goes, "Roll him up, Miz." What the F kind of hill are you? And he rolls me up, 1, 2, 3, and I'm trying to compose myself, and I laugh it off, and everyone had a good laugh. But it's a fun story to share. Looking back, it wasn't so much fun at the moment.
Wow, that's a story and a half. That's a hall, yeah. That's a Hall of Fame story. Like, you're never going to forget something like that. Yeah. So getting into the ring gear itself, like you said, you have, you got into it by, well, Robert, was it yourself who got into it? You started it off first. Was it yourself and Patrick came along later? Or?
Yeah, it was out of necessity, really. It wasn't, we didn't do it to start making money. Mm-hmm. I was in college going to be a history teacher, and I was living at in the town the university was, Jacksonville, mm-hmm. Alabama. And I was an assistant manager at a Pizza Hut. So, I was not making any money. Yeah. You're not knocking it down. Well, I just had a new singlet made, and we had a match, and it gets ripped in the match. And I was like, crap, I don't have the money to get another one. So I called home and asked my mom, did she have a sewing machine? She's like, yeah, why? I said, well, I'm going to see if I can figure out how to fix this. Well, usually if spandex gets a hole in it, you're not fixing it. It's There's not, it just keeps tearing apart. Well, the girl that I was dating at the time, she's like, do you think you can make it? It's like, no, I don't think so. Here in high school here, I don't know how it is with you. We have a class called home economics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you learn how to sew.
Yeah.
Well, back in 95, when I was in school, I thought it'd be cool if I made me a pair of MC Hammer pants. So I made these pair of MC Hammer pants with one leg coming past my foot and the other leg opening up around my knee. So I was like, I'm not a sewer. And so I went and got the machine from my mom, compared the stitching that was in the singlet that I had to what was on her machine. And that's how we started learning. And then Patrick was 100%, because people ask, well, why don't you make gear for us? Y'all's gear looks pretty good. Why don't you make it for us? I was like, no, we don't do it for money. We're just making it for me and making his trunks. And they just kept on. I was like, look, so many people want gear. Why do we not just start doing this and making money off of it? Well, we started doing it. And at first he pushed back. He's like, nope, don't want to do it. Have no part of it. Which cost, it was so much going to school, going to college.
Yeah.
And then, outside life out of that. And then you're going to tack on making gear and for other people. It's just a lot to do. And then it just financially I think it kind of pushed us to it.
Because we were both wrestling independently at the time, mm-hmm. or to be at WWE. And this is in the early 2000s. And we kind of seen that we were both broke, and we were working at Pizza Hut. He was an assistant manager, and he had got me on there. We weren't making any money, and because we would make our own gear because everything was expensive. And we just he was just like, let's just try it out. He kind of talked me into it because I was apprehensive about doing it. And then it just kind of became a way to where we were kind of making extra cash here and there. And I think it kind of started snowballing from there. And then we started picking up orders, and we were doing it for extra cash, and we enjoyed it. It was kind of fun for us. I had no sewing background whatsoever. I like drawing. I drew as a kid. And I guess when the video games came out, like the wrestling games, I always enjoyed creating the attires and all these different characters. And I was a huge comic book fan. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where it kind of started for me, and I didn't realize it, was having a deep interest in comics and in the games. I think that's where my creativity kind of came from in that aspect. But we were just, trying to make it as independent wrestlers to WWE. That was our goal.
Yeah.
We didn't really have any aspirations of like we're gonna start a business and we're gonna make all the attire. We didn't even think about it. It just kind of happened.
Yeah. How did the I think was it Mike Knox was your first? He was your first
Mike Knox,
big.
Yeah.
Derek Nykirk, and at the time Ryan O'Reilly. He is now Connor, or was Connor in WWE?
From the Ascension.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Them and another story. So that's when Deep South was in Atlanta. That's when their training was in Atlanta. And I get this text message one day, and it's like, I'll be on Smackdown tonight with that spider gear you made. And I'm like, what? Spider gear? And I'm sitting here thinking, I don't remember making spider gear. And I said, which gear? She's like, the red and the black spider gear. Well, we did make a spider outfit for this girl at the time named, what was her name?
Oh, Michelle.
No, not Michelle. It was
Taylor.
Taylor Wilde in TNA.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, because she was
Chantel Taylor. That's
Yes,
who she was in
yeah.
Deep
Okay.
South. So I was like, oh, okay, but that was pink. She's like, no, I'm like, I don't know who I'm talking to. And so I text Mike Posey because he was at WWE at the time. And I said, hey man, why didn't you let me know that Chantel was in a match? She's like, she's not in the match. He goes, why? What's going on? I told him what the match was. Now it's like a 3-way women's match. He goes, that was Victoria. I went, well, we don't make Victoria's. And so I text back. I said, is this Victoria? And she's like, yes. Is this not Adam? No, this is Robert. She's like, oh my God, do you make gear? I went, we do. She's like, oh, I am so sorry. I've mixed you up with somebody else. But if you want to, you can make gear for me. I was like, okay, cool. So we done her gear. And then from her led to Michelle McCool came to us. And then I get a call. We had a buddy that had a dark match. And he called me from the building. And he's whispering. He's like, hey, what are you doing? I was like, I'm working. I said, why are you whispering? He goes, because I'm about to tell you something. I said, okay. He's like, I heard Laurinaitis talking about bringing you in. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, don't say nothing. It's like, okay, I ain't saying nothing. Well, it was like, what, a month? We didn't hear nothing. So now you got this information.
Yeah,
your name's being talked about getting brought in there to be one of the costumers.
Yeah, because it was towards the end of the year.
Yeah. And it was insane. It's like, you can't say nothing. You don't know what's going on. Because at the time I didn't really know anybody up there. Yeah. And then one day, again, Victoria texted me. She's like, no, she called me. She's like, I'm so excited. I'll see you next week. Went, did what? And she goes, oh God, you don't know? I was like, I don't know anything you're talking about. She goes, you don't really know? I was like, I have no clue. She goes, well, they're bringing you up here next week. You haven't been called? I went, nope, have not. She's like, oh, kayfabe that. Don't say anything to anybody. I was like, don't worry about it. I ain't saying nothing. So then we get off the phone. So now you're like, what's going on? I don't know what to do because you got the excitement, then you've got nerves on top of that, and you don't know what to do. And so finally I was in Walmart and I had like unknown calls as a certain ringtone. So I'm going through there shopping and my phone just keeps ringing and keep ringing. I'm not paying attention because I hadn't heard that ringtone in so long. I finally looked down. I was like, unknown. So I picked it up and the girl said, hey, this is, I can't remember her name, from Talent Relations. John Laurinaitis just wanted to know if you would be able to be here, come up next week. And I'm like, well, let me check my calendar. Let's see. Like, yeah, I'm open. I'm open. And so the first time I went up there, it was a tryout and I never left. I was there for about 2 years.
Crazy.
And after that, it's just, here we are.
That's crazy. Did they bring you in just to, like, did you have to design everything yourself from scratch? Did people come to you with the ideas and you just had to make them, or did you, like, I know you use like designers now, like Jonathan Davenport and other people that design the concept and you make the gear.
Jonathan's a savior. Like,
he's awesome, man.
I can't, neither one of us can say enough good about Jonathan.
Yeah.
As a designer, artistically, he's amazing, but as a person, he's amazing also.
Yeah, absolutely.
But used to, back in when we first started this, we kind of wanted only us to do the designs.
Yeah.
And not outsources or anything like that. Well, then in past years, it's just got to be like he would spend all day sometimes designing something. And then, and I'm not saying whether they're at WWE or independent, it's just whoever may not like what it is that he designed. So now he's worked on that all day long. He's lost that. And at that time, we didn't charge for goods.
Yeah.
So it's complete loss. Now that Jonathan, we have dealt with some other designers. We got a buddy named Chris McInnes, Break Orbit Studios, I think is what he's got. We've done some stuff with him, and now Jonathan, who does everything, we'll send people like, look, if you want, go to Jonathan.
Yeah.
And it's easier now. Sometimes people say, hey, do you design? And we're like, not no more, not really. We can, but it's just so much easier to get Jonathan, who's got that eye and can do everything else. And it took a minute when he first done some stuff for Xavier, sent it to us. I asked him, I said, can you give me his number? So I told him, I was like, all right, man, you've got like 7 colors in one design, like stacked outlines. I said, you can't do that. We can't do that because it just thickens up the logo and then it won't stretch on tight. So once he learned all of what the do's and don'ts of that, and it's like off to the races. That's the way it's been. And now, man, he pushes us so artistically. He don't even used to, he'd say, can you do this? Now it's just like, hey, this is what's coming at you.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah, and because communication is key.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you're trying to design something, Jonathan has worked with us for so long that he knows, like, what, because sometimes you'll get a design and it'll look great on paper, and then you make gear and it looks exactly like it, and it doesn't translate well. He has the eye of what works, and he also knows of, like, well, you can't thicken it up right here in the crotch right here, because you do, that's going to restrict the stretch. And when they get out there and they start moving around in the ring, it might tear, and that's not a good place to have a hole. No. So he has the knowledge of all that, and he's extremely creative. Like, he'll want to know, like, well, what's this character like? So you can kind of know, like, what style are we going to bring into that design, because your look matters so much. Because when you walk out, people need to know whether, like, to cheer you or boo you. Who are you? And like, what you're wearing says so much about who that person is, who that character is. And that's why gear is so important, or just your overall look.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, ring presence, the entrance music, and the gear itself, like,
absolutely,
that's a trio there. They all have to work together, like, because you see people coming out in some ridiculous looking ring gear that they bought in a Walmart or something, like, some of the people who may be extras, who may have not got the ring gear, it just doesn't look right. But whenever, like, you have obviously WrestleMania coming up, every WrestleMania people have special ring gear. I'm presuming WrestleMania season is crazy for you. Everybody come knocking on your door.
It's always the inside joke. Even when I was up at WWE, when it comes WrestleMania season, everybody's like, we're quitting, we're done, we're not getting there, not even going to talk about it. I will give you a little bit of, we was talking about Jonathan and how I told you that used to he'd ask us, can we do this? So there's a project for the Royal Rumble that he's drawing up right now.
Okay.
And he's already told me, he hasn't asked me about it. He's like, it's got to smoke. I said, what? He goes, it's got to smoke. So I'm going to leave that up to y'all to figure that out. And I'm like, thank you.
Smoke machine.
Built in. Oh my God. I'm not even going to try to guess who's going to be wearing that, but smoke.
If we pull this off, it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing what the designs are, because you said a while ago, you said just 40. How old did you say you were?
43.
43. So I'm 46. You're going to know it. And I promise you, this is from your childhood.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So if we pull it off, it'll be, we know.
I'm looking forward to that. Royal Rumble, besides WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, and in this house, that's our night. You know,
Yeah.
we have to stay up late to watch the pay-per-view. So Royal Rumble is the one every year. Besides WrestleMania, it's the 1 year, one pay-per-view every year that we actually stay up when it's on a Sunday. Like, we don't go to work the next day. We have to stay up for. Thankfully, it's on a Saturday this year, so we don't have to take a day off work.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I can't wait for that.
It's an exciting show, is it?
It is. It can either be, the best show of the year, or it can be the worst show of the year.
Is that your favorite, the Rumble?
Yeah, the favorite pay-per-view, the overall, I think the Rumble. WrestleMania is on its own thing. So out of everything, I think Rumble is the best.
We have our friends that hit us up like, you got any surprises coming? It's like, nope, can't tell you. Because we won't tell it. Like when Edge returned.
Oh yeah.
We sat on Edge's return for 3 months. We knew about it. And it's like, this one buddy is really close friends. He's like, you ain't got nobody special returning. I was like, nobody. But our same old people. And it's just like crazy when he finally.
I hope your phone's encrypted. There's nobody trying to hack into your phone just to find out who's coming back.
Oh my God. Give anybody any ideas.
Well, not that it means anything after I've already said this, but there's no special returns on our side as of right now.
What is the return like? When we spoke to Jonathan, we spoke to him like he doesn't get to see the ring gear that he designs until like they come on TV. They walk out on screen. What at what stage do you get? I know you're making it. How do you have to go to that person, make sure it all fits? Are you on site whenever it happens, or they use their own seamstress, then they tighten all the screws or whatever they need to do to make sure everything's working properly?
Well, the majority of the people that we work with now, that we've worked with them for so long, they've got everybody has their own individual pattern. Mm-hmm. And so we just pull it out, cut it. We know it works.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll send something like we do have one guy sending a pair of tights back right now because it had designs running into the seams.
Okay.
So it made it tight around the legs. We didn't take that for account when we done it. So we're going to have to adjust that. But if they need it for the day of the show, they do have the 3 costumers up there. Yeah. They can adjust them. And now typically I'll get a text from one of them. Be like, hey, this is what happened. And this is where we adjusted and what we done to fix it. But no, we never see them hardly in person at all. I did have to go a few years back and meet up with Alexa because she was supposed to do it. She was going when she hosted Mania, she was supposed to have wore a mesh bodysuit. And because mesh fits so differently, I went down. First time I went down, I measured her, came back, then we made the suit. And I was just like, you know what? I want to put you in this before we finalize the suit and see how it fits. So I went down there and done a test fitting and it was good. So we just come back and then finish the suit out. But it's very, very rare that we see them in person for any types of fittings or anything like that.
Yeah.
You don't.
For it because it wasn't gear. It was like a dress. Like and it's a shame too because we've never shared that. So we have a lot of stuff that's really cool that we just haven't shared because maybe it wasn't used for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's never been seen.
Yeah.
So just tucked away.
Waiting for somebody to.
Yeah.
Were you involved in the gear she had for that WrestleMania with the stuff dripping down her face? Did you get involved with that?
We done the gear.
Yeah, we made the jacket that she wore.
The crown was made by Jason Baker.
Okay.
Yes,
he does a lot of movie props and stuff, and he works really close. Has done stuff for.
He did all the Bray Wyatts.
Yep.
All the Wyatt stuff.
Yeah, he is. We've talked to him a few times. Pretty cool dude. He's helped us out on some pointers and some stuff that we've done in here. But his talent with that bloody leaking crown that he done, that was pretty awesome. That was
crazy. Yeah.
Did
you have any mishaps? Has it ever been watching on TV where something popped out that shouldn't have popped out? Have you had anything like that happen to us?
Oh yeah, I mean it happens. I'm trying to think of anything off the top of my head of where sports some.
I don't. I'm sure it's happened. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything where it has. I do believe I'm not going to say her name.
Mhm.
There was a diva before while we was really getting stuff
Yeah.
up at to WWE. Survivor Series, I think she had a breast fallout. And I was like, oh my God, we're done. We're done. They're never going to use us again.
Oh,
And that didn't happen. That's like, it's just the way it got pulled.
Yeah.
So,
Is it?
yeah, I guess this is one of those things that you just
Yeah.
don't really keep notes of,
Yeah.
mental notes.
and it's so hard because they're being so active in there, and they're hitting hard, and
Yeah.
sometimes things happen. You can't help them.
Yeah.
It's just part of it.
Is it
Unfortunately,
just-
it happened to me?
Is it just wrestling ring gear that you make now? Have you branched into other sports or other, maybe within the movie industry? Is there anything like that happening? Do you do anything like?
We would love to branch into the movie industry.
Yeah.
That's one of our things that we'd want to do. We have done like a commercial. Jonathan actually hooked us up with this commercial.
Okay.
And but we didn't create the suit. It was for a commercial in Tampa, Florida. It was a race car driver for I think it was a window business. I'm not 100% sure on that. But what we done instead of creating the suit, they just asked us, could we alter the suit?
Okay.
So they sent us the suit, we altered it, and they loved it. And there's supposed to be some stuff in the pipeline that we're going to work with these same people because they make like B-rated movies.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that comes through. That would be fun. And we'll see that it'll be something else because I know Jonathan's already has worked on some of the sketches and the artwork for it. And I'm sure he'll test us again.
He's getting into that as well, and he did a screenplay for a movie, and he's got the Ruby Bridges stuff that he's done.
Yeah,
and it's crazy because he'll be like, "Oh, I've got this movie coming out," and I'm like, "Jonathan, no, you haven't told me about this." Because me and Jonathan especially talk a lot because we have a lot of similarities that we grew up with liking, like He-Man figures,
nice,
and everything else. So I'll get a new He-Man figure and I'll text it to him. Be like, look at this. So I have a stack of He-Man figures over here and vehicles. And then his big one's Transformers. And so we'll sit here and talk about all the toys, 46-year-old men talking about the toys that we're collecting. Insane.
Well, are you looking forward to, there's rumors that there's going to be a new He-Man movie coming out. They're looking at finding someone to play him in a movie. Who do you think it should be?
Well, before COVID hit, they were actually, I don't know if they were in production or starting pre-production. And the guy that they cast as Prince Adam / He-Man, I think he was Italian, which I could care less what they are. But the guy was super small. How are you getting He-Man out of this guy? So the only thing I could figure is they're going to make a muscle suit for him to wear.
Yeah.
And then that could be really silly looking, or digitally enhance him. Just get somebody. But you ask that question, who could play him? I don't know. And there's nobody on top of my head that I can just think of and be like, this guy would be a good He-Man. Have you ever went back and watched the old He-Man movie?
Yeah. I grew up watching the Dolph Lundgren one. Yeah.
Dolph Lundgren was actually a good He-Man.
He was. He looked. The script mightn't have been great, but he looked the part.
Yeah.
He looked brilliant in it.
I went back and watched the movie, and I'm like, boy, this does not hold up. But it's that thing from your childhood.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I gotta watch it. If you read any of the inside scoops on that movie, it's insane what they had to do to get that movie finished. I wish what they would make is a Thundercats movie.
Yes, and they should have. We have another podcast where we talk about movies and TV shows, and we did a 80s cartoons episode there a couple of months ago, and Thundercats is what I grew up with. That's my baby.
I mean, it's like it's a perfect.
It is
atmosphere, a perfect universe to make a movie out of.
Yeah.
And it's not been done. I'm like, what are y'all doing?
I don't know why they haven't done one, because I know they remade the cartoon in 2011 or something, but they
Jonathan told me that, and I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either until we started researching the podcast
Yeah.
we did. It's like, what?
What
When?
makes it so fun for us?
Yeah.
That's what makes it so fun for us is things from like we grew up in pop culture that
Mm.
we can influence and bring into their gear and their outfits, and then the audience sees it and they make a connection like, oh, you know, New Day has
Yeah.
or they have whatever out because and they're like, oh, did you see that? Or did you see Johnny Gargano? He had Spider-Man or whatever out there. And it's fun for the audience. And because they're like, oh, you relate on that same thing, and it makes it fun to see like,
Yeah.
what are they gonna do, you know?
It's kind of like when he was talking about that right there. When we done Damian Priest's Skeletor
Nice.
outfit,
Yeah, that was awesome.
I was like, oh my gosh, I was making it more difficult on me because I was like, it's got to be this, it's got to be
Oh, yeah.
a certain way. And Patrick finally goes, what would 9-year-old Robert want this to look at? And I was like, okay. And so I just started working on it and everything else. And him and my sister, who works in here, but she don't want to ever be on camera, done the cape. And so when they started cutting the cape apart and sewing it back together to make it all look stitched up and everything, I was like, that's a pretty cool idea because to me, Skeletor is not clean.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, the cape, it's got to look dirty and tattered and torn and everything else. So I think we pulled that off. I liked the way it looked, and when he come out with it on camera, I was like, oh, that's nice.
It was challenging for sure because we did a lot of things in there that we were trying and that were new for us at the time, trying to figure out how to blend everything because we did a lot of there was some latex in there that we had done. Like if you look closely on the skulls up here on the shoulder pauldron part, and then we went a different route in the beginning with where he was going to have like this bat here, and for whatever reason it just didn't work and we scrapped it. But it was fun, and it was challenging for Robert because he's such a He-Man fan that he was in his head about it, and I was like, dude, you just relax and just remember like there's
Sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah, that one right there was so I didn't want it to be seen how it connected. And I'm not going to give the secrets away of how we connected it, but it was just like I was so adamant that it had to be. I guess I approached it like, is it going to be on like a movie set? And that's when let's get out of the wrestling bubble and let's make it more theatrical.
Yeah.
And I hope that everybody, when they've seen it, it come off that way.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things. I loved that. That was such a throwback.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Before I could sit here and talk to you all day, and I know you probably have a lot of things to do. So, like I said,
I want to do your other podcast now. Let's
we've asked. I think we're doing a 90s cartoons one this month at the end of the month. I think I'm hoping Jonathan. He said he would come on for it, so I'm hoping we can do that at the end of this month. It's a 90s cartoon, so
that would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. We might actually do a He-Man one. We could actually do a cartoons that were turned into movies podcast, maybe something like that. Transformers, He-Man, and stuff. Maybe we'll get a Thundercats movie down the line where we can.
You better block out some hours because we're all sitting there talking about what we loved as a childhood. Look, man, me and Jonathan can sit on the phone forever. It's like two little kids talking about what they've got new for their birthday or for Christmas.
What he got himself for Christmas.
yeah, exactly.
Like I said at the start, we always like to finish our interviews with a quick fire quiz. It's basically called 10 things everybody should know about our guests. So this is just either or answers. Both you can answer. There's no wrong or right answers. So to see how well you mash up if you're in sync or not. But nice and simple. Are you ready to play 10 things we should know about you?
Let's play it. Kind of nervous, but yeah, let's go.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Right. Beef or chicken?
Ooh.
Beef.
Both.
Marvel or DC?
DC.
DC, I'm a Batman guy.
Nice. High flyers or storytellers?
storytellers for me. I like the ones that make you feel.
I'm going to go with that one.
Yeah,
Storytellers.
100%. Lock stitch or chain stitch?
Lock stitch.
Yeah, always.
Spandex or lycra?
Not that big of a difference, but spandex.
Which is easier to work with?
Spandex.
Yeah, cool.
The thicker spandex.
Sharpshooter or Scorpion Deathlock?
Sharpshooter.
Sharp.
Bret Hart all day.
But I love Sting when he did the crow. Like,
Yeah. Okay, if you love Bret, did Bret screw Bret?
oh, that was a complicated situation.
I think it's really sticky.
And yeah, I think Bret and Sean were both in bad places, and the right decision wasn't made. I feel like I'm glad that they were able to move on.
Yeah.
I think both sides of, and this is with any situation, both sides is right in their view.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I will say this much. I watched this interview with Zack Snyder one time, and he talked about how General Zod was right through his eyes.
Yeah.
And he was doing the right thing. So it's one of those situations that each party was doing what they felt was right.
Yeah, 100%. Favorite match of all time?
Oh, gosh.
Oh my God. Oh, wow. Favorite match of all time. That drew out emotions, that had me on the edge of my seat, would have been when Hogan and Macho Man split at WrestleMania. When the Mega Powers exploded, that was one of those things. And some people may sit there and go, really, that's your favorite match of all time? But from something that really drew out my emotions, even though I was young, it's probably going to be that one.
At WrestleMania 4 before they led into 5. Yeah.
I'm trying to think, because there's so many that made me feel a certain way. I think I'll say it's the most fun that I've ever had watching a match was Rock and Hogan at WrestleMania when he turned, and I think the crowd is what made it so.
Yeah.
And it just drew me in because I love the NWO. And then I was a huge Rock fan, and seeing how the audience and all just that one wrapped me up. That one was so much fun for me. I'll say that, but there's so many.
Yeah, of course. Favorite piece of ring gear you've ever made?
You're throwing these. Oh my God. I think for me, in the recent years, is going to be Gargano's. What was that? The grave where it lit up in his chest, the Iron Man.
Oh yeah.
Because that tried us again. That was just, oh man, how are we going to do this? Because when he told us he wanted to do Iron Man again, I said, we've already done Iron Man.
Oh, it was the way.
Yeah, the way.
Yeah.
It was the way gear.
Nice.
So he's like, but let's do it in the gray. And I was like, okay. So we'll do that, because his first Iron Man vest that we made him was all leather.
Yeah.
So like, we're going to have
that was just a zip up vest, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes. And that was that. Well, I know that you're trying to wrap things up. There's a story to that vest. It almost didn't get shipped out.
Oh, really?
As we were packing it, the wires that lift the pieces up in the chest, they broke.
Oh no.
So those broke, and then so we had to go back and rewire it. And then some of the rivets pulled out. I'm like, are you serious? We're snake bit on this. The sewing machine tore up the day of it, one that sews the leather. It tore up the day of it, trying to get it, the final steps of it finishing. I was like, what are we going to do if we cannot get this done, because he needs it? But finally we pulled through, and I think there was only like 10 minutes left to get to UPS to get it shipped.
Yeah.
So it was like very, very slim of getting that done.
Crazy. Jesus.
Your favorite piece?
I think gosh, there's so many. I would say maybe the Nightwing set that I done for Ricochet. because I'm such a huge Batman fan.
Mhm.
I had a lot of fun making that one. Just for a personal preference for me,
Yeah.
I'd say that.
Excellent. This is either either an easy one or a hard one. Who's your Mount Rushmore?
Oh,
Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. I guess I'm going to go cliche here. Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, because it was my era as a child. I'm going to say Hogan,
Mm-hmm.
Savage,
Yeah,
Ricky Steamboat.
nice.
Sean, Brett, Hunter, Austin. I got one more.
Yep.
Mm.
Doink the Clown.
Yeah, don't. There's no going.
Brilliant. Lads, thank you very much for playing 10 things we should know. Everybody's watching this. This is now anybody who may know the lads or who may not know lads, who may bump into them in the future. They like coffee, go buy them a coffee, buy them some chicken, talk to them about their Mount Rushmores, if they're right or wrong. What yours? Before
80s cartoons.
Yeah, exactly. 80s cartoons, He-Man, DC. Look, there's so much. We could sit here for hours talking about this, but I know you lads are very busy coming into this. It's WrestleMania season. Will you be in attendance? Do you get to travel to the shows? Do you get to go to the pay-per-view so much?
We have, like when New Day done what was it?
Final Fantasy.
The Final Fantasy stuff. The company actually flew us in.
Oh, nice.
And we was at the Performance Center. It was and it was like super hush hush. You can't talk about it. You can't say nothing. And so we done that. Was there for the week of Mania, because like during the Mania week, the entire company's in the town of wherever they're at, or the city. So we were there for that. After that, if we've had to deliver gear, we have taken it. If it's relatively close to us, I have drove to Dallas, Texas to take gear. And it was a nonstop drive. So I was driving for 22 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was stuff like that. But as far as going to shows, I haven't went to a show since I was released. So that would have been in 2009.
I think in the past recent years, we've had to make the drive to every WrestleMania except for the ones that were in New York, I believe. Is that about right?
Yep.
Crazy.
And then we were down there for the Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
These won't be at WrestleMania 40. Are you hoping for Rock and Roman or Cody and Roman? Who's main eventing?
I think
I'm gonna go with Rock and Roman.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the title?
Just off of off of his comment that he made the other night of the head of the table comment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of history there. When Roman he won the Rumble years ago, and Rock came out.
That was in Philadelphia as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so
there's a good story there.
There is. Yeah,
you got a lot to build with, and it seems to me I don't get to watch it that much anymore.
Yeah,
but just talking with friends, and when I will. The shows that I watch for sure are Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and the Raw after WrestleMania. That are these shows that I have to watch.
Yeah,
but it seems like that they're getting back into more of the storytelling
and
the meat of it, and I
definitely
think that's
gotten a lot
really
better.
I think that's really what draws people in. That's my opinion.
100%, definitely. Lads, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We were definitely. I'm definitely getting you back on for more podcasting for DC and He-Man and stuff. There's a lot more to talk about. There's definitely a lot more to talk about.
Let's do it. I'm all about doing the ones. Get Jonathan on there. Let's do the 90s cartoons and everything.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
It'll be a blast. I really enjoyed this.
Absolutely, lads. It's been an absolute pleasure. Robert, Patrick, thank you very much for your time. Lads, if you haven't checked out go and check out the Main Event Gears, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all over. You can see some of your favorite ring gears over the last, 10, 15 years. Anybody who's ever worn, you can go and check them out. If you ever wanted to know who made the ring gear for your favorite wrestlers, these are the lads. Go check them out. Go follow them. Go support them. If you're a wrestler and you've never got ring gear off them, what are you doing? Go after, get the lads, get in contact with them. You have phone numbers for other people. Ring them if you need to get in contact with them. Who made the ring gear? Go and check the lads out. Their ring gear is absolutely phenomenal. So go and get some. As always, lads, like, comment, subscribe, and all their stuff. Leave a comment below. If you have seen their ring gear, let us know what your favorite one is. Let us know who you think should play He-Man in the movie. Let us know who your favorite Thundercats is. And lads, we'll see you on the next one. Robert, Patrick, absolute pleasure having you on. Thanks for your time, guys.
Loved it. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.